Hey guys, it's Eddie, it's your Muay Thai tutor. I have to apologize, sorry for the lack of content, but they switched up my work schedule at work. So I've been finding it difficult to find the appropriate time when I can record for you guys. So I apologize for the lack of content, but I will be recording 2 times today. I don't know if I'm going to put out both videos today. I'll probably wait till tomorrow so you guys have some time to process. But you guys do have 2 videos coming up. And today's video will be on the walk knee. Now, it's not just a regular knee. This is a walk knee where you have distance, and I have to give that disclaimer. Now, most of the knees tend to be the same mechanically, but once you start getting into the clinch, and that's typically when the knee's fired, when you're locked up in a Roman Greco style kind of thing, that's when there's a lot of intricacies with the hands and the spacing. So I'm just going to try to separate all that for another video and just go through the mechanics of the actual knee and how you fire it. So with that said, let's get started. All right, so when you're firing a walk knee, it's very important that your striking knee is always the knee that is in the rear. So it'll be, like if I'm throwing a kick on this leg, I want to be throwing the right knee or the right kick. So I'm going to walk into my opponent, and whether I'm walking up, I'm literally walking up and just kind of taking back and forth steps depending on how far my opponent is. So if my opponent is this side pad, and this is my striking surface, I'm going to walk up, place down. Now my right leg is behind, and I'm going to fire with that knee. If I'm going to strike with my left knee, it's very important that as I walk up, I'm going to step. Now my left leg is in the rear. Now I can use that to strike. The other thing that it's worth noting and pointing out is as I walk up, the opposite leg is going to be in a loaded position. You don't necessarily have to be on the ball of your foot because you can literally just fire it from here. But if you want extra power added, I would highly recommend to be on the ball of your foot so your calf is engaged. And I also recommend that you stomp. It'll be very much like a ball. If, the harder you bounce it to the ground, the higher it's going to go up. So this is going to be the catalyst of your power. The harder I stomp into the ground, the more it's going to propel me up as if I were to jump in the air. So as I'm walking up, stomp, other side, back. Now, another small detail is as I'm loading up and as I'm preparing for this knee, I'm going to have a curvature in my upper torso and spine. So it's almost like if I'm going to do a small sit-up from this position, I'm going to load up, and as I fire that knee, that's all going to be space translated from my pelvis to fire in. So I'm going to get rid of that notion. So without the knee being thrown, I'm going to step up in this position, and I'm going to almost dry hump, my opponent. Back. Now, the trajectory of the knee, there's going to be a couple of things going on. So as I fire the knee is going to come not directly up and not directly forward. It's going to come at a diagonal position. So if I were to point an arrow, meaning the arrow is coming from here, I have a giant stick here, it's going to go straight into them, into the rib cages, into their solar plexus, and force a compression or break a bone. So it is not coming straight up. If you were to knee a bag, you're going to scrape it. And although there is a knee where you come straight in, you want as much range of motion and penetration. So it's going to come diagonally up and in. Back. Now, as I do that too, there's going to be one small notion of a corkscrew. So very much like a punch, how you turn it at the end, there's going to be that small instance at the end of your knee. So I'm going to stomp up, I'm going to bring it diagonally up, and at the last second, I'm going to flare out my ankle so I get this last kind of notion, almost like a push kick, where I turn that supporting foot to get as much depth and penetration as possible. So, stomping, I have the curvature for penetration. Back. Other side, stomp, curvature, catalyst for power, trajectory, and then I'm going to spin and create that curvature. Back. Now, my hands. Your hands can do a couple of different things depending on the situation. You always want to keep into account the counters. So while I'm walking up for the knee, you can very much get elbowed or punched. So you want to stick out your hands, not completely out, but almost in a defensive position to watch for where their hands are at, possibly their biceps. So if you can control their biceps or shoulders as I'm closing the distance, that I can keep into account the things that can hit my face while I'm firing this knee. Now this is a very loose introduction to the clinch, because as soon as I'm done kneeing, I'm going to either let go and disengage and fire off, or I'm going to knee and then continue to load up for the clinch. That I'll leave for later. But as I'm loading up with my hands, there's a defensive responsibility for protecting myself. So I'm going to walk up, stomp. Here I have my head down, I have the curvature, I have my hands out, grabbing something, or I could just have it out here, and then as I fire out, I have my hands in front of me for anything that can catch my face. And as I fire my knee, there's very much a falling back sense. So again, as something's coming at me, I'm leaning away from the punch, and I also have my knee for distance. Boom. Now, with my hands, very much like when I throw the push kick, there's going to be a small sense of grabbing an imaginary bar and pulling that bar to you, not so much down. So a lot of mistakes that people make when they're throwing the knee, they slam their hands straight down because they're trying to simulate the clinch while not being in a clinch position. So if I were to just slam my hands down, although I can create a lot of explosiveness for my knee, this motion right here leaves me wide open for their counter. Bah. So, grab an imaginary bar. It's not so much that I'm pulling it down as much as I'm pulling my body weight in. Bah. Bah. And that creates defensive responsibility. Now, after I make contact with my knee, again, there's a couple of different options. I can either back off, fire the knee, and be in this position ready to strike. I can fire the knee and my opponent can come in, and I can do something called a wizard if you've ever wrestled before, where I'm going to rely on the length of my knee and my femur to keep me away, or keep them away. I'm going to place that at their belly as soon as I'm done striking, and then I'm going to turn my foot out and pretty much use the length of my shin to keep them away. Now, as they're coming in, I'm going to hop back and use this foot at a 45-degree angle to keep them away. And then as soon as we're done disengaging, I'm going to back off, and then I'm ready to go, I'm ready to fight. So one more time, knee, wizard, make sure that I'm okay, and then pull back, knee, get ready to fire, or the last option will be to knee and then clinch. And then from there you can do all sorts of things. I apologize, during my video we have wonderful young people with signs for the unfortunate accident that happened, or he got murdered by the police officer. So that's all going on over here in LA. So there's people honking for the signs. It shows support of the protest. So I apologize for that background noise. With that said, if you guys have any questions, please comment, like, subscribe, and thank you guys and have a great day.